All right. Welcome to the study group. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you, Derek.
Welcome, everyone at home. And we are blessed with the opportunity to increase our happiness a secondfold. And we just want to have a demonstration of good character and integrity. So we want to be a reflection of good cheer here. So
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're not experts on happiness by any means. It's always progress. It's always growth here. But we're learning through demonstration that only in growth can you find some happiness.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come without some challenges and some growth.
Right. And the inspiration for our growth ideally comes from God, from our companionship with God.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to the title slide,
Yeah.
let me just read this quote here. This is from Jesus. He's instructing teachers and believers, and he says, "Increasing happiness is always the experience of all who are certain about God." And I just find that to be a really fascinating, intriguing, provocative, inspiring, exciting idea, that statement.
Yeah. It's like faith, this inner certainty.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not the natural human condition, especially on this planet, to be happy all the time. I mean, we have so many things that we struggle with psychologically, emotionally, physically, materially, relationship-wise, you name it. There's so many, struggles that are part of the human condition, but that's all good to the extent that it helps us to grow and develop character. But this idea that if we're certain about the companionship of God being with us through all of our experiences, then that adds an element of spiritual character and inspiration that can yield happiness.
Yeah. It gives us a focal point, a focus, a purpose,
Exactly.
an identity. Even.
Yeah, identity especially.
So we're not in chaos looking for some kind of focus.
Right.
So having certainty in your identity
Mm-hmm.
then allows for a lot of things to kind of coalesce and correlate with that goal and that purpose.
Knowing that we're not alone, that we have a divine partner.
Yeah.
Living within us and living with us. Spirit of God within us, and Jesus with us, the Mother Spirit as well, upholding us.
Yeah.
So all these divine ministries contribute to our well-being. We just need to learn how to engage them and find them and discover this certainty that Jesus is talking about.
Yeah, I like this picture because he's so calm.
Yeah.
But yet still focused. He's got a presence about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would take time and go out in the hills and commune with the Father.
Yeah.
And that's where his strength, that's where he derived the profound strength that he brought back and shared with us.
That was his secret.
Yeah, it was one of his secrets.
Secret power.
The apostles would always try to go and find him, and they could never find him.
Well, I'm going to get into this first slide.
Sure.
About happiness here.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is Jesus speaking. When my children once become self-conscious of the assurance of the divine presence, such a faith will expand the mind, ennoble the soul, reinforce the personality, augment the happiness, deepen the spirit perception, and enhance the power to love and be loved. So there's a lot going on there, that there's these superpowers, like we said. That's the secret.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Becoming self-conscious of the assurance of divine presence. That's like we were talking about, this certainty.
Right, exactly.
Of divinity with you, of God with you, the presence of God with you.
Yeah.
And then what that does, how that unfolds then in someone's personality and their character.
Mm-hmm. It's like having a new relationship.
Yeah.
It changes us to have a relationship with God because we begin to take on the character of God through that relationship. And it does all these things. I mean, this is quite a list. And it includes augmenting happiness, but ends up with this comment about enhancing the power to love and be loved. Yeah. So when there's a divine lover living within us that we experience and engage with, then that love's going to spill over into all of our other relationships. That's kind of the beauty of this whole flow of reality in the universe.
What I love here with these words is how it talks about this assurance of the divine presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're conscious of it, then it says, such a faith will expand the mind, will do all this other stuff. So there's faith there.
Exactly. Yeah.
This certainty of the divine presence
Uh-huh.
in your identity. So go ahead and act likewise.
Right.
Act accordingly.
Right. Yeah. Faith and certainty very closely related in our experience of these things.
Yeah.
One leads to the other. I'm not sure which is first, but they definitely go together.
And spirit perception.
Right. And it's more than a belief, I guess, is the important thing about faith. Faith is more than just a belief. It does involve a certainty, an assurance.
Even like a faith vision, because there's almost a way where you're now seeing beyond what is the ways of the world, just the material dualistic nature. And so you do have to be born again or have the Urantia soul vision that through practice in this, you grow a faith, the certainty of it.
Right, right. And that's part of what grows our soul.
Right.
It's to have that merging of the human and the divine, blending together in our experience. Makes us more than human. Makes us more than we would be otherwise. That's the thing that I always keep thinking about. It's like, when I hang out with God, everything changes, gets better. I get, I just feel myself more fully. I reach higher and I do things I wouldn't do otherwise. And I get these inputs, right? Spirit inputs that wouldn't be there otherwise. So thinking of myself without that, I'd be like a completely different person.
Right. And what I think about when I hear that is that the spirit of truth and the thought adjuster and all this divine help bringing in new creativity for you.
Right.
And for all of us, that then there is a happiness that ensues because you have a project to get busy on or you have something to work on. I think since we're all have a bit of the creator within us and we're all little creators, that it's our nature to want to work on something.
Exactly, yeah. And there's an excitement of discovery. Behold, all things are becoming new is what Jesus would say.
Yeah, and then the discovery that's being lived, because that's, I think, what's really important here is that like we could agree on this, but to live the truth is, is a different, the truth is lived.
Right.
And let me just read this next slide. Happiness ensues from the recognition of truth because it can be acted out. It can be lived, like we were talking about there.
Right.
That's how you really experience it. That's how you gain wisdom. Is you reflect from what you've acted out, what you've lived.
And there's a path forward, just coming up against the wall. This next part adds to that. Yeah.
The highest happiness is linked with the intelligent and enthusiastic pursuit of worthy goals. And such achievements constitute true progress in cosmic self-realization. So this idea of stacking up these worthy goals that you're achieving, that you're pursuing,
right?
And you continue to evolve in how your capacities expand as you achieve things, right? And then you can kind of, as you have these accomplishments from your pursuits, you can look back and kind of gauge your identity almost. You can see where you've come from, how you've grown, what you were a part of,
Yeah, right. You can see the path you've been on, and that points in a direction going forward. And this idea that truth can be acted out, I think, is really a powerful thing to understand, because truth is one of the values that comes from spirit. If we think about truth, beauty, and goodness, these are sort of the primary breakout of values from love. So when we try to bring truth, beauty, and goodness into our lives, then we're on this path they're talking about. And that always involves the pursuit of worthy goals.
Right.
But they're goals that are conceived in partnership with spirit, which is then what enables this true progress in cosmic self-realization. In other words, if we're just within the limited ceiling of our human nature and our culture as we find it from day to day, that's not cosmic.
Right.
I mean, we can have self-realization in those arenas, but it's not cosmic.
Well, I feel like deep down it comes down to cosmic self-realization is awareness of soul.
Yeah.
So you're growing your soul, and that's what's going to last in this cosmic
That's what
arena.
makes us potentially eternal.
So real happiness is coming from building your soul, essentially. That's the real work that we are, the creative cooperative art project that we are tasked with.
Yeah, that's
on this planet.
Sort of our highest worthy goal. And then the others organized within that.
Yeah. Okay, you want to read this one?
Yeah, let's go for the next one. Human happiness is achieved. Now, this is really interesting, I think. Human happiness is achieved only when the ego desire of the self and the altruistic urge of the higher self, the divine spirit within us, are coordinated and reconciled. So they're talking here about two influences that impinge on our experiences and our thoughts and our desires and our efforts from day to day. And some of those come from our material nature, just our physical human nature, and some of those come from the spirit within us.
Right.
And they're not always in harmony, as we're all very aware. So the idea that we can harmonize, coordinate, and reconcile these what might seem to be divergent desires and urges into a unified life purpose is, they're saying, the way to achieve happiness. And they here's a thought to add to that, which I think is really helpful, where they say that the adult is willing to sow seeds of self-denial in order to reap subsequent harvests of augmented happiness. Subsequent harvests of augmented happiness. So this is kind of the deferred gratification idea, or the self-restraint idea, where you can have a more far-seeing vision of possibility. Right, and the spirit can give us that. They talk about how the thought adjuster presents us with picturizations of destiny, even. So if this is, these are the inspiring visions of possibility that really motivate us the most deeply. Sometimes we have to restrain our urges in the moment in order to invest in that future possibility.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is sobering, but very wise. And it's interesting how they associate it with adulthood.
Yeah.
There's maturing. A concept of maturity that runs through the Urantia book.
Yeah,
and this is part of it.
And as well as like maturing in, as we were talking about ego, it's not like killing your ego, it's growing up and using your ego, because ego is a very powerful tool that we need to get us out of those dark places. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Keep that self-respect going, that self-belief, that perseverance and determination. When things go wrong, sometimes you need that really strong ego to keep you going.
Yeah, well, our ego is like the foundation of our selfhood. It grows from our childhood. And I like the way the Urantia book talks about the ego, because it can take over and be too much of a priority.
Right.
But it never in the book does it say, well, you have to kill your ego or get rid of your ego in order to find God. Instead, it's a matter of spiritualizing your sense of self.
Well, like we talked about, laying up your treasures in heaven. So the foundational work of building your soul, you will reap some benefit from here on this life, but you'll reap a lot of benefit in the next life. And it's worth that investment. Yeah. So our soul is kind of like our energy. That's kind of what, it's how we project our selfhood into the world. Yeah.
But as that becomes spiritualized, becomes guided by spiritual motives and values and goals, these worthy goals, then our ego becomes a partner in the creation of our soul and transcends it ultimately. And we leave our physical nature behind and become Urantia beings. But there's this, while we're on this world, there's sort of a transitional partnership even going on within us. Right. That we have to learn to
master these
things. Coordinate and reconcile.
But we are creators. So we can devise plans to get the best creation that we need to move forward in this service that we're asked to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So going to the next one. Okay, well, here's 3 kind of short statements, sort of principles, you might say, principles of happiness. that have to do with conditions. So happiness often sort of arises out of the conditions that we can create. It's not like we can just say, oh, I'm decide to be happy, but we can create the conditions where happiness arises naturally. So these are three interesting ones. The first one here says that fear and anger weaken character and destroy happiness.
Yes, it does.
I think we can all attest to that from experience. As difficult as it may be, sometimes to find the necessary self-restraint. I mean, it's not to say that we're never going to feel anger or feel fear, experience fear within us, but it's more a matter of then, okay, what do we do with that?
Yeah, and knowing what you know now. You know more than just to be stricken by fear and anger and then being paralyzed. Because you know what you have on your side. You have divinity with you. You have God with you. You have the soul. You have the Spirit of truth always telling you the way. Like, if you can go there, and pull back the newness, that's what God's asking you to do, is bring in something new that wasn't on this earth before. Right.
Return good for evil. That's where that principle also comes in, that idea that it's always better to increase the amount of good in the world. And by striking out in anger or fear, it does the opposite. It always arouses an equal reaction from whoever else might be involved.
And it hurts you too.
It hurts you, it hurts the other person. So that idea of self-restraint, spiritual self-restraint, is so important here. And when we experience these feelings, just to kind of step back for a minute and consider, check in with God, most importantly.
Get back to God.
Get with your divine partner.
I'm not perfect, but Jesus is a great example.
Help me be more like him. Yeah. Anyway, so this next one says, a solitary life is fatal to happiness. So that's a really important one too. And we know we're never alone. I mean, we always have God with us, even when we're humanly alone. So we're not solitary in the strict sense. Although if we don't know about God, or if we haven't established that relationship, we can definitely feel very alone.
Absolutely.
Just within our humanness. So that's why having a relationship with God is so important.
And having friends.
But then it also brings in, it really helps to have human associates. We share experiences, rant, whatever it takes to get through the day and feel like you're got people that understand. But that's the cool thing about Jesus. He's been human. So he knows about all our issues, all our problems, all our struggles. He's a very sympathetic and compassionate friend. So we can always turn to him as well.
Right. As for example.
That
notion of God does it for us, with us, and as us.
Yes.
Is such a loving
We're kind of enveloped by divine presence. We just have to learn how to feel it and connect with it, partner with it. But anyway, human associates are also obviously very important in all this. So it's a good lesson there. And then lastly, they say, being sensitive and responsive to human need creates genuine and lasting happiness. So I really like this because it kind of resolves all of these other things. I mean, it resolves anger, resolves fear, resolves isolation. All these things that can take down our happiness are uplifted and resolved by being sensitive to the needs of others, getting outside ourselves. Oh, let me just go help this person. And, it's like when Jesus and Gannon returned the lost child to its mother. There's that whole story in the book. And afterwards they were commenting to each other, wow, that felt really good.
It does feel good. And I would say that the unpredictability of the Spirit is, you never know, but you might have an intention to do one thing and something surprising comes about. Maybe to help one person, but gain a friend somewhere else. But having the faith to step into that calling. And as well as what I love about this is that friends allow this built-in opportunity for service and looking for an opportunity to help someone.
Yeah, and it could take all kinds of different forms. Whatever you're good at, whatever you feel inclined. It's interesting how there's two parts of this. There's the sensitivity, and then there's the responsiveness. So the sensitivity means like getting outside yourself and paying attention to what's going on with others, because it's so easy for us to get so just like internal in our ruminations and whatever. And we're usually all the bad places where that goes. But if we start paying attention to the other people around us, even if we have to reach them electronically or some other way, that takes us out of ourselves. Yeah. So there's a sensitivity there. And then when we see a need or have an idea, something that might be helpful for someone else or whatever, to respond to that and follow through on it.
Yeah.
Then we get that feeling of satisfaction, that feeling of connection, and then you get feeling back from the other person.
Yeah. And I would, from my experience, I would say that works as far as being sensitive to what God's needs are in your life and to respond to them, and what your needs are, even your basic material animal needs as far as like sleep or water or food, whatever it is, like honor that and do yourself a favor, be your own friend, or think of your soul as you, friend, Urantia self, and you guys are looking out for each other or something like that, because you gotta reflect the spirit in your own life to yourself as well.
Right. It all goes together.
Yeah.
That's how we get that overflowing that can then reach out to others if we have a fullness within ourselves.
Right.
But it actually works both ways, interestingly. I mean, in the Urantia book, almost always worship and service are combined. And this, oftentimes even in the same sentence, that there's like a handshake there. We find God, we find the love of God, and then we want to serve, we want to help others. And then that grows. Then we get a better idea of the nature of God from our service.
And I feel when I'm in worship, then that's where the new idea of potential service comes in. Like I get a new opportunity to serve that wasn't there before, because I really took the time and attention to be with God. And guess what? Something new came through.
Yeah, exactly. And then when we act in the world, then that experience also opens up new insights and new understandings.
And that helps happiness.
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Derek.
All right. Thanks, you guys at home. And stay tuned for more happiness and more podcasts.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, God bless.
More to come.